always find it funny when people are trying to justify what they essentially do when it comes to their own money and their video game collection. Now, ultimately, the goal is to play whichever games you might buy, but I'm here to tell you that it's okay if you don't play your video games. Of course, back in the day, when you got a certain video game, you played that game until you could not play anything else, and you hoped that you would get a new game for an upcoming birthday or holiday or something like that. And then you would move on to the next video game and you would continue playing that game. That's what their design purposes are for, is to play the games. Now, in today's time, things have definitely shifted. When you look at Pokemon cards, for one, their designed intent and purpose is to actually play the Pokemon card game. Back in the day, we would get those cards. Of course, we'd put them in their protective sleeves, but I remember playing the card game. I remember, trading those cards at school until they essentially got banned. And I remember just collecting them and putting them in a binder and storing them away for many, many years. Now, today's time, it's like every single thing is crossed over from their original intent into a collectible. The toy market has been affected, the video game market has been affected, and of course, cards, whether it be Pokemon or really anything at this point. I feel like people, when they make that distinction, whether something has a value or a monetary, value towards it, it kind of shifts from just what its intended purpose is into a collectible. And I'm here to tell you it's okay if you want to collect these video games. Now, of course, there's going to be tons of people, they comment in several videos, and they're always saying, you should play all your games, there's no way you could play all your games, etc., etc. Well, I hate how people always try and say in their videos that you should play all your games, you should do this, you should do that. Well, essentially, it's up to you to decide what you want to do with this stuff. Why is it okay for people to come at you when it comes to video game collecting versus playing versus reselling and kind of like tell you how to live your life, but they don't go after people who collect other things? There are tons of people who collect sports memorabilia, and the intended purpose of these items is either some sort of protective equipment or some sort of item that you use to play the game. But then once people sign it and, different celebrities or players or anyone else puts their autograph on these items, it is then crossed over to a point of a collector. Or even if it was like the winning ball of that game. People, they hold those memories and they hold that specific moment, and that's where the money lies. And essentially, that is what has happened when it comes to video games. People hold their memories, their nostalgia, their great times that they had playing these games, and they put a money value to these items. And the same thing when it comes to Pokemon. People are really out there fighting over these card boxes. People are trying to fight over these booster boxes. Anytime that they have some sort of release, they fight over this stuff. There's only supposed to be 1 per person or like 10 per person. Next thing you know, everyone's fist fighting, they're throwing stuff, they're like grabbing at this stuff like animals. And of course, they're trying to resell the stuff because they know that the value is there. And that is essentially the same when it comes to video games. Now, a lot of collectors, their intended purpose when they first start out was to try and play some of these games. Now, we all know there are bad games when it comes to certain libraries of games. Superman 64, for instance. A lot of people, it's just not a fun experience. I remember getting it back in the day. I remember not enjoying trying to fly through the rings, and I remember just kind of putting it away. I never played that game again, and then I just moved on to the next thing. When you have games like that are essentially these bad games or these games that are not enjoyable, it's like, why would you have them in your collection? Well, as a whole, these items, they turn into that collection. They turn into something of value, and people have that. Am I going to go back and play some of these games again? Probably not. But I like the fact that I have them, and that way, if I have people over, maybe they associate their memories or their nostalgia into these games and they want to play that. and they want to relive those moments all over again. Everyone collects, plays, resells for different reasons. You know, when I buy these video games, oftentimes I'm buying some of them from resellers. People out there, they get them cheap and they sell them for high dollar, and that's essentially how it is in any hobby that you look at it. We can all be upset that games have definitely skyrocketed, you know, given the popularity of this stuff. Of course we're going to talk negatively about someone or think negatively when they're doing something that we used to be able to do at a much cheaper price. But when you look at everything out there, it's only, you know, just natural for these prices to continue to go up. Now, I'm not going to spend like $30,000 on a video game or something crazy like that just to add it into the collection. Now, that is like a whole different extreme type of collecting, and a lot of people kind of steer away from that type of stuff. Now, when it comes to certain games, you shouldn't have to pay more than a certain amount to enjoy these games on the original hardware. Well, of course, when you have popularity, it's going to jump up the price on a lot of these. So when people always say that they hate resellers, they hate this, they hate that, they call them scumbag resellers, you know, those are people that maybe once enjoyed the hobby before things jumped up in price, and they're just kind of placing the blame on something that they see. Now, they're not going to place the blame on other things that are like out of control, like the fact that maybe they're not out there looking for the deals, they're not putting the time, effort, and, you know, their money and resources into finding a cheaper option. They're just going to blame someone else. So essentially, that's kind of how it is when it comes to this collecting or playing games. A lot of these games I go through, I test out to see if some of them work when I first get them, and if it's something that I'm interested in, I'm going to play it or put it on a backlog or a list, or make some sort of like mental note that I want to play these games. A lot of these Nintendo 64 games I have played. I have went through, not to completion, but I have went through and played a good chunk of them because I either remembered playing them back in the day, I wanted to play them, you know, as time kind of progressed, or I wanted to test out these games. Same when it comes to the GameCube. There are tons of games that I'm still looking for because I want to play them. Like Eternal Darkness, that is a game that has been on my list for many, many years, and I just can't seem to find a complete in-box copy for a reasonable price. But I'm going to go out there and try and find it so that I can play it. Now, going for full sets, it's not for everyone, but there are people and collectors who want that full set. For whatever reason may they have it. And are we going to play all the games? No. Are we going to try? Maybe, maybe not. And should we be, you know, harassed in every single comment or every single, you know, video that we should be playing these games, or, you know, the intent is to play these games? I think we've shifted from that, and I want to know what you guys think about on this topic. When you're comparing and talking negatively about video game collectors versus resellers versus, you know, people who play their games only, you know, you can only play one game at a time. So if you have more games, essentially you are part of this whole, are you really playing your game? Are you building a collection? Or did it just so happen that you built a collection over time? I want to know what you guys think about this topic. So of course, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out all of my other videos and stay tuned for more.